संस्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयो श्रुत्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः। नमः श्रीयतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे। So in this Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play, we are in the chapter The Master as a Guru towards the concluding part. So last time we were just discussing this incident because about the supreme sensitivity of Sri Ramakrishna regarding what was pure and what was impure, how he could in a very subtle way find out how it was possible. So actually यहाँ एक घटना जो हुआ था where Swami Thakur had gone to see Pandit Sashadhar, that Sat Maharaj has recounted again. It seems उन्होंने Sashadhar के साथ भेंट करने के लिए गया. At that time, Sri Ramakrishna wanted towards the end, when he was about to come back or something like that, he wanted to take a little water. कोई व्यक्ति अंदर से एक गिलास पानी ले आया था, but Sri Ramakrishna simply could not take it. उन्होंने स्वीकार नहीं किया, ग्रहण नहीं किया. तो स्वामी जी तो नज़दीक में खड़े थे. He was close by. He saw that there was nothing, no dust or nothing there. Why he is not taking that water? तो बाद में so Swamiji really wanted to find out ये कैसे हुआ? How is it that was he because of some other reason or because no Swamiji भी पहले भी सुने थे that was Ramakrishna had this because his supreme state of spiritual awareness. If there is due to contact or due to some other reason, so if there was any kind of impurity that way, still Sri Ramakrishna would not be able to take it. So this he thought was an opportunity. Maybe देख लूँगा कैसे क्यों नहीं लिया. So जाते समय ठाकुर asked him, चलो. Said नहीं नहीं मेरा दूसरा काम है करके वहाँ रुक गए. So he did not go with Thakur. Then when he went away, Swamiji asked that the brother, the person, उन्होंने पानी ले आया था. क्यों क्या उनकी सब बारे में कुछ बताओ. Then the gentleman clearly said, what shall I speak about him, my elder brother's shortcomings. So everything and he दूसरी कोई व्यक्ति की पूछ के भी स्वामी जी फिर निर्णय किया कैसे उनके चरित्र है. So from that he clearly came to understand that he was really wonderstruck how the master could see into people's minds. Of course जिसके बारे में तो पहले भी सदमा बहुत विस्तार से चर्चा की है that how because he would always function at two levels. One at the because of his contact with the supreme superconscious level with the cosmic mind, उसकी वजह से सब कुछ पता चलता था. And using that extraordinary knowledge at that level, when he would come down, again he could really understand a person where he was and what was his real nature. कितना उनका क्या स्वभाव है, क्या चरित्र है, सब उनको पता चलता था. So he says, if you want to know how the master could detect or understand the inherent good or bad qualities of all things while dwelling in the normal plane of consciousness, we must first understand his mental constitution. Then we must learn how he developed a fixed standard by which he could judge all things and arrive at correct conclusions about them. You have already given the reader some hints, this is बताया मैं, regarding this in different places throughout this book. So now it will suffice to make brief mention of it. We notice that the master's mind was not attached to any worldly object. So whenever he decided to accept or reject anything, his mind would immediately unite with or separate from that thing. Once it was separated, he never again looked at that object in all his life. The Master's unique steadfastness, powerful discrimination, and one-pointed concentration gave him full control over his mind. As a result, he could focus it firmly on any particular thing for any particular length of time at any particular place according to his will. He never allowed his mind even for a moment to think of it or imagine anything, think of or imagine anything else. Whenever he accepted or rejected anything, part of his mind would immediately ask, why are you doing? See, because in the earlier place he talked of clearly two different qualities of Sri Ramakrishna's mind, namely his being completely in tune with cosmic mind and cosmic consciousness, whereby he could, because of that, Master saw everything in two different ways, from two different planes of consciousness, the non-dual and the dual. From the first he saw with supersensuous vision, and from the second sense perception. So because of his being completely established in that non-dual consciousness all the time, could immediately connect with the cosmic mind, and from which there was a clear reflection of whatever that was happening at the level below. And then when he would come down, and then he could immediately relate, and based on his experience which he had at the cosmic mental level, he could immediately identify and find out and decide. Now here it talks about a slightly different quality also. Because of his other qualities like his powerful discrimination, steadfastness, control over his mind, etc., etc., he could immediately, attach himself very firmly to anything that was immediately at hand. जब भी कुछ करना था, इतनी जोर से पकड़ सकते थे, वही वैसे ही छोड़ भी सकते थे. Immediately he could also detach, and एक बार छोड़ दिया तो जिंदगी भी कभी नहीं दिखता था वहाँ. Whatever he rejects it once and for all. So in that, with such a powerful mind, it was possible for him to look at things or understand everything in a very penetrating manner. And not only that, he says, even whenever he was to do anything, kabhi kuch karna tha, accept karna, reject karna, he was to do or not to do, participate or not participate. Virtually, as we know, his mind would get divided into two parts, so to say. One part of the mind would clearly ask, what is it? Why are you doing it? And if it got a reasonable answer, it would say, all right, so be it. As soon as it reached that conclusion, the other part of the mind would say, then stick to it firmly. You must not act otherwise, even when we are eating or sleeping or resting or whatever it is. His entire mind thus worked in harmony to accept that this thing and act accordingly. His steadfastness acted as a guard and always observed the mind's actions so carefully that if the master by accident tried to do something contrary to his resolve, he would distinctly feel as if someone from within had tied down his senses and would not allow him to do so. We will understand this if we study throughout his life with every how he behaved with everything or every action. So this is of course Satma is also trying to give us different standpoints. Kaise? Because this kind of a mindset nobody has examined at such close quarters. कोई किसी अवतार की नज़दीक से उनके सब बारे में पूछना, जानना, उसकी जांच करना, to analyze, understand and give. I think nobody has gone that close. Even if you consider the other avatars who have come earlier, we get only glimpses of their mind, their qualities, their character, their achievements, their greatness. See, they're all coming down to us, centuries after. So, abhi bhi aap Jesus ke bare mein, it's even extremely difficult even to fix whether there was a person called Jesus Christ. Kyunki us samay ka tasbih bhi nahi hai abhi. So, only after, after 3 or 4 generations of disciples, so backward they have gone and constructed everything. उन्होंने यही किया, उन्होंने यही बोला, इन्होंने बोला करके now they are building a huge literature, huge heritage, everything about those times, his actions, उन्होंने क्या किया नहीं किया, and shrouded in a lot of controversy and agreement and disagreement also. So the other avatars, though, if you take the Pauranic avatars and all that, it's only myth and nothing else is available. But Sri Ramakrishna, that is why, in Sri Ramakrishna's life, it's a beauty, it's a plus and it's also a minus. क्योंकि इतना नजदीक से उनके जांचा किया, they have examined him from so close quarters and they have really threadbare analyzed and put it on record. So often unless you go certain distance, आपका पता भी नहीं चला where to place Ramakrishna in our own life. Whether उनकी क्या अति मानव के रूप में मान लेंगे, accept him as a super person or God or avatar or as a saint or a Mahapurush. That's why Swamiji somewhere says, जो भी कहो, whatever you say, you call him a Mahapurush, call him avatar, whatever you call him. What is very clear is the unprecedented qualities of Tyaga and renunciation and the capacity to really discriminate and find out. These are all, whatever the other adjective you give him, call him by whichever name or whichever qualification. But these are something extraordinary, unprecedented, never had it been witnessed before, at least in the recorded history of mankind. कोई मनुष्य के अंदर इतनी गुना ऐसा परिमाण में, and when that's something unprecedented. So here also again, so naturally Satma is trying to give a very detailed account of his life. So he is trying to explain it from various angles. This is only also an explanation. See, normally how do you say that उनकी मन की दो भाग हो जाता था, it used to get divided into two parts. These are all only trying to explain. No one knows how really that mind, or is it really necessary also. If the mind is such powerful, such a supra mind, as Aurobindo calls it, it is such a kind of a mind, it has capacity to function in several dimensions, several layers, several capacities at several ways. There need not be that kind of division also. But of course, Atma gives his understanding. He says one part of the mind to divide and ask, क्यों करने जा रहे हैं? Why you are going it? Is it okay and all? First, the analytical part of the mind, which really takes upon itself the role of finding out, as in the first part. Then जब वही परीक्षा में it gets cleared, when it passes that test, then the other part of the mind takes over. It kind of watches, then कैसे चल रहा है? What is happening then? So the actions related to that decision, the first half of the mind, whatever decided, the second half or the other part of the mind completely ensures that आप कोई किसी वक्त आप, even if you forget by any chance, still Sri Ramakrishna could never deviate from whatever has been resolved or whatever the earlier part of the mind is. So that is probably one reason why Sri Ramakrishna, even in dream or even by chance, you could never tell something which was not true. Because once the mind, which is so pure, so clear and so capable, so subtle, once it decides that something is true, it has to be true only. See, in our case, the mind is so fragile, so really in such a state of turmoil always. So we keep on, every second the mind keeps changing its stand, deciding, in every matter, if you analyze ourselves, we constantly shifting our stance, keep on changing. So that is why even in mundane matters, जब भी कोई सिद्धांत लिया, बस, that is the end of it. In fact, the circumstances have to come around to prove that it is so. ये भी कई उदाहरण हम लोग को मिल चुका है पहले. Wherever he went, people said this, but his mind said something else. Then later on, people understood, no, this is what has happened. Even when he went to Chaitanya Dev, that Gangaji mein, they said, no, here, there. He could never feel the presence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in all those places. लेकिन वापस आते समय नाव में बैठे थे, एक जगह नाव चल रहा था, तुरंत उनका ऐसा ही एक अवस्था प्राप्त हुआ. He became so surcharged with that super conscious experience life. Then बाद में उस समय तो he did not say anything. बाद में सब रिसर्च करके पता चला वही जगह पे there is one of the history says that here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu really drowned himself. So like that, in every incident of his life, whatever his super sensitive mind really found out, that ultimately came to be the reality, or at least there was a clear indication that it was one version. This is even when he says about the figure of Jesus Christ. He had a very strong, long, aquiline nose. So, normally he was on most of the descriptions is given as a flat-nosed person. But then somewhere biography, somewhere they found out where it says that Jesus had an aquiline nose. So, like that, that is why whatever mind decides. If it rejects completely. If it accepts totally. And then the other part of the mind takes over to ensure that there is absolutely no deviation whatsoever. Kaya mana vak mein koi deviation nahi ho sakta tha. Now, there are several instances he is giving. First of all, when he was doing sadhana, jab dhyan karne mein baithte the, when he used to sit, but the mind understood that the only purpose of life was to realize God and to engage in such deep sadhana. Isliye jab baithte the, even if he wanted, he could not get out. As if all his joints, etc. would get locked. And then only when after the desired amount, the number of hours, etc. were over, then only those locks would become, kind of unlocked, they would be opened, and then you could get up. Uski pehle wo koshish karke bhi nahi uth pate the. Somebody had completely locked all his joints. So this is, from this, it tallies with Saradananda's explaining the nature of his mind and subsequently how the body and other senses would function according to that understanding. Then he is giving another example. So, एक दो दिन जे पाठशाला में जाके उनके पता चला, then the mind had clearly understood what it is, and then नहीं, this chalkola bhada vidya, this packing, the rice and plantain. I don't want a bread-winning education. So then, however much they tried, they couldn't make him go to school. So Ram Kumar jab Calcutta chale aaye, then at that time he thought that so he's simply wasting his time. So let him come with me and also participate. So Gadadhar's childhood resolve regarding a money-making education, he failed to convince or change him. So, but although his brother was a great Pandit and all that, he had opened a school and was teaching his students, but he could not meet the financial needs of the family. So because he had no alternative, Ramkumar accepted the position of priest in the temple of Rani Rasmani. He said that all right, you have to support the family instead of doing some other useless things, you do it. इसलिए कर रहे हैं, लेकिन I cannot be persuaded to engage myself in such an education whose aim or end is to win bread or make money or earn something for the family. And then, the scriptures say that one should identify oneself with the Divine Mother during worship. So normally, you know also that saying, Devo Bhutva, Deva Majed. So that is why, the idea of puja, according to our Hindu Shastras, etc., is very extraordinary. See, बाहर से उसके बारे में कुछ नहीं जानते उन लोग सोचते हैं क्या एक पत्थर के सामने एक मूर्ति के सामने they are trying to do image worship, puja, this. But the real puja is through all that, through different traditions have different methodologies. In one tradition, close to this tantric idea is to the nyasas, etc., the puja becomes divinized. Then only he becomes fit to worship the deity. Devo Bhutva, Deva Majid. First you become divine yourself. And then, so that is why there are so many nyasas, purificatory actions, these, that, everything. In fact, when somebody was doing Kali Puja in Benares, Raja Maharaj baithe the, he saw when the pujari was doing nyasa, each part which he was touching, the devata pertaining to that part of the body was becoming jagrat, it was shining. So Raja Maharaj saw that how it is happening. A good pujari, sincere pujari, when he was doing the nyasa with various mantras and touching the various parts of his body, how each part was becoming really lighted up because of the awakening of the deity pertaining to that part. So this idea, even from his boyhood, the master's mind acted accordingly while trying to offer bay leaves and hibiscus at the feet of the Divine Mother. So Maki, when he was offering, अपना सिर पे he used to offer upon himself the flowers, leaves, etc., etc. So that was his idea, where he had himself become divinized, he had himself become one with the Divine Mother. So it was spontaneous, not that वो कोई प्रयास करके कोशिश करके ऐसे किया, ऐसे नहीं. It is not that he made any effort. It was so spontaneous and just by itself that whenever, sometimes when you'd offer to the mother, or sometimes upon himself, on his own head or his own body. So thereby proving the idea that he had become himself divine even while worshipping the divine form of the mother. In addition, when the master was initiated into sannyasa, his mind began to perceive the one non-dual Brahman. So sannyas ke samay to, when Totapari initiated him to that non-dual sadhana, तो पहले तो मानने के लिए तैयार नहीं थे. Again, how the idea, two parts of the mind. One part of the mind was holding on to the Divine Mother. वही वो जानते थे उतनी दिन तक. So that mind was very firm. It was holding on to the idea that Divine Mother was everything. So माँ के साथ तो माँ की रूप, माँ की ये, it was such a endearing mother for him. उसकी से माध्यम में सब कुछ मिलता था. For everything he used to depend upon the mother, whether it was worldly, it was spiritual, it was practical, it was anything. His one and only support was that Divine Mother. So उसने वो बोला नहीं, मेरा जरूरत नहीं है. I am unable to, although तोतापरी के पहले बोला मैं माँ की पूछ के आ रहा हूँ. I will ask the permission. जाओ मंदिर में जाओ पूछो. So he was not understanding. So he came back to do sadhana. But then his mind was, that's why, once it takes something, it used to hold on to it so steadfastly till that is rejected. And once it is gone. So at that time, he was not prepared, his mind was not really prepared. Then that awareness came, then the mind went even deeper. And then it took the Gyan Ashi, this word of knowledge, and then it went beyond the Rupa and Nama by cutting the form into two, and then the mind soared into that infinite. So at that time, once that happened, there is no more of the mother coming back. It was completely immersed. Teen raat, finally, then Totapari had to come and chant Om repeatedly. Kisi tarah unko jagana pada. With great difficulty, he made him come back, because otherwise he would have given up his body in that new dual state itself. He would have never come back to normal consciousness, because the mind had now again done this vichara, discrimination, found out, yes, there is a higher state, one can go beyond, and then there is no need for, see, after all, Sri Ramakrishna's, for functioning in the world, he needed a support and an adhar in the form of a Divine Mother. With the help of which he could do small little things pertaining to the world, like taking care of his own little body, or doing something, or talking to others, or giving some spiritual ministration, or whatever it is. But then when the mind completely merges in the non-dual level, there is a need. Who is going to instruct whom? Then there is a complete awareness of the total unitary consciousness pervading everywhere. Even to say everywhere is coming down from that state. There is only one, that awareness. So naturally the mind had completely emerged in that. And after all, of great difficulty, Totapari had to bring him down. But then later on, after his mother passed away, he wanted to offer mother the water, tarpan. Simply the hand, even however he tried, he could never hold water, because it will fall through the holes where the fingers would go apart, and all the water would fall through that holes. So then, he asked, so Haladari told him, Dada, it ki hocche, but then he said, Galita hasta bole, it's where, because you have done that, you have taken sannyas in a true sense, so you have gone beyond the rituals, you have gone beyond all those formalities. So, only when there is awareness of duality, you can offer, you can do something, you can pray, you can worship, you can do something for the departed souls and all that. So a person who has truly taken sannyas, obviously, is beyond all that. It is not possible for such a person to perform rituals, and that is why he could not do anything. We can cite so many examples that clearly prove how renunciation, discrimination, concentration and steadfastness were easy for the master and natural to his mind. Moreover, these experiences of the master are the same as those recorded in the scriptures. So what is written in the scriptures is true. So इसलिए स्वामी जी कहते थे शास्त्र में जो लिखा गया, whatever is written in the scriptures. Normally, one can say, पढ़े लिखा आदमी हो तो सब पढ़ के अरे वो तो वहाँ से बोल रहे हैं. Whatever he is saying is, because of his capacity to read and understand, उनकी अनुभूति नहीं है, वो मन से बोल रहे हैं, पढ़ लिया, जान लिया, वहाँ से कर रहे हैं. But in the case of, that is why he demonstrated that the master came this time as an unlettered person. He demonstrated that the spiritual states recorded in the scriptures, the Vedas and Vedanta, as well as the scriptures of other faiths, are true, and that all human beings can indeed achieve those states by treading the path of any religion. So, यही दिखाने के लिए is also another special feature of Sri Ramakrishna, that although even is a person who had absolutely no formal education, no formal knowledge, not capable of reading anything, hardly able to write even his name or that kind of a minimum this thing, still that person was speaking the highest truths according to not only our scriptures, even other faiths, other traditions, so perfectly. Obviously it is from first-hand knowledge to prove to the world, and also इसकी अनुसरण करके सबको वैसे प्राप्त करना संभव है. It's possible for others also to realize following the same path. As we discuss the nature of the master's mind, it becomes evident that human life reaches its culmination when one ascends to the Nirvikalpa plane and realizes God as one without second. So, at least it is given in our scriptures that the idea of non-dual Brahman, again, that is also realized in the state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. As I told you earlier, these are all actually again completely our own, Sharat Maharaj's own kind of combination, because in Vedanta there is nothing like Samadhi or Nirvikalpa Samadhi. These are all completely different tradition. Vedanta doesn't talk of all that. It only talks about विचारा, nothing else is there. You have again विचार करके करके समझना वही आपकी वहाँ ही खत्म. There is nothing like you are going into samadhi or being savikalpa, nirvikalpa. All those are all completely different. But of course, Satmas really combines all that. When many places he explains, he says nirvikalpa plane, one realizes God as one without a second. Regarding the spiritual experience in that plane, the master said, all jackals howl alike there. In other words, as all jackals make the same noises, so those who have ascended to the Nirvikalpa plane and experienced God, the cause of the universe, all describe him in a similar way. The master said of Chaitanya, the incarnation of love, as the elephant's external tusks are meant for attacking enemies and its inner teeth are meant for masticating food, so Chaitanya's dualistic mood and non-dualistic mood were external and internal attitudes. So, that is also true, and also, somewhere else, even Sharat Maharaj has clearly discussed how through the path of bhakti also one ultimately reaches the same highest plane of unitary consciousness, where there is absolutely nothing of the devotee's ahankara, devotee's consciousness, devotee's part. There is only the Lord, and that is also one kind of a unitary consciousness where Sri Chaitanya never saw even a trace of himself at any time. He was always, the only awareness for him was Krishna consciousness, Krishna. So that was also one kind of a complete unitary consciousness where it is called as Sri Krishna, that's all. The name is different. But of course he explains it also from another angle. He says that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talked so much about taking the name of the Lord, singing kirtans, participating, conducting such kirtan, satsangs and all that. He said that is more for the other people, that externally others would follow, take to a path of devotion, take to a path of sadhana and lead a holy life. That was the reason. But for himself, he was always absorbed in a complete non-dual consciousness. It is clear that the master judged everything by the standard of unchanging non-dual knowledge. Any thought or action that made people and societies advance towards the non-dual plane, would consider to be higher than others. Obviously, since he had also realized the highest non-dual truth, that being the peak, everything else Sri Ramakrishna also had to judge only in relation to that. उसके आधार पर सब वो जांच करते थे. And not only that, after being in that complete non-dual consciousness, for one time he was 8 or 9 months completely in that state, where there was absolutely no other trace of idea or consciousness or anything in him, and somehow his body survived through the effort of one sadhu. उसके बाद भी he was not willing to come down. It was again a divine mother's call or a dispensation that तुम भावमुख में रहो, you be in the भावमुखा for the sake of others. Then he started coming down, and इसमें भी बीच में again he goes into that extraordinary condition, and then by itself slowly, by the mother's will or what was designed to be as to be a spiritual guide of humanity, so he comes down and then participates, and then slowly he gives spiritual instructions, and then again whenever there is an occasion he goes back. So when we study the master's visions originating from his spiritual moods, we find that some of them were swasamvedya, experienced by himself, and some were parasamvedya, experienced by others. In other words, when he thought and steadfast spiritual practices took a concrete form, some visions would manifest within the master. Only he could see them. So when he was in a very state of intense sadhana, कितने क्या उनके अनुभव हुआ, क्या दर्शन हुआ, absolutely nobody had any knowledge whatsoever. बाद में कभी उन्होंने बता देते मेरा कितनी देव देवियों का दर्शन होता था. So many types of gods and goddesses, with way you would give wonderful descriptions of the strange gods and gods. Like that, he had gone through such a huge variety, gamut of spiritual experiences. वो तो किसी को पता भी नहीं था, and he never used to also, he could never explain or come out with that. But there were instances where even although it was his spiritual experience, it was happening at such plane, either at that time or depending upon what he was doing immediately after that, those around would also get a hint as to what was the nature of his spiritual experience and what did he really pass through. So again, Saradananda puts it into two divisions, namely Sasamvedya and Parasamvedya, what he alone could feel or realize in such exalted states, and then at a little lower level where even those around him, the devotees or others, whoever was there, could also get a glimpse because that was happening at a slightly different level. To verify, when he told others about these visions, people would discover later that what he had seen actually came to pass. To verify the authenticity of visions on the first group, one had to be endowed with the master's faith, sincerity, steadfastness, and descend to the same state in which he had these visions. So naturally, जो पहले सब में वो जो कहा है, whatever were his own deep inner spiritual realization, वो तो दूसरी का तो पता नहीं चलेगा unless one also rises to that level. But in the case of others, to understand the second group of visions, one needed neither that kind of a sadhana or not that kind of a super mind. Only by seeing the results, whatever is happening, people were compelled to believe that these visions were true. बाद में जो आता, for example, even when, not exactly, even not even a vision, even the realization. For example, when Thakur said that भगवान ने सब विधि नियम किया, उन्होंने तोड़ सकते हैं. भगवान has made, he can break it. Because he had seen again and again, he must have had several such experiences within himself. But to the external person, this much he said, no, why do you say like that? Then Mathur Babu contested that. He said, क्या करें, भगवान ने एक ही पेड़ में क्या शाखा में ये हो सकता है? कहाँ लाल और even the white सादा फूल कैसे हो सकता है? White and then he said, very next day he saw in a tree, in a hibiscus plant, there was the white and the red flowers were available. He himself brought that, Thakur brought that and showed him. He plucked it, he says, you said yesterday. So, because of that, his mind was of such a subtle nature. whatever he experienced, some of the experiences were made visible to others. For example, Mathur Babu was not greatest sadhaka or anything like that. But because of the actual proof which is perceivable through the senses, some of the other spiritual experiences of the master were made visible or made understandable to others. So from what we have said earlier about the nature of master's mind and what we see now, it is clear that such a mind could not remain idle even in the normal plane of consciousness. If it focused even for a moment on a particular thing or person, it could not stop unless it reached a definite conclusion about it by studying its nature and behavior. So naturally, once the mind had become so sharp and so focused, wherever you could place it, like a searchlight, it would go on and on and on till it really unravels the entire mystery or nature of the mind or the object or the person in front, to know in complete detail what it is all about. In boyhood, his mind discerned that scholars studied the scriptures to earn money, so he did not learn that type of education that was breadwinning. We will now discuss how, as the master grew older, his mind came in contact with various people in different places and arrived at different conclusions about them. So this is one instant we know from his boyhood where he was not willing to study or participate or undergo that education which would only help him earn money, that is breadwinning education. ये कैसे पता चला? वो जब देखते थे स्कॉलर्स आके वहाँ बैठते थे, डिस्कस करते थे, कुछ समझना कोशिश करते थे. He saw that in and through that, although they were doing all those discussion and all, the real intent was how to make money, how to go ahead in that. So वही समझ के उन्होंने बता दिया. He saw through the whole game. And once the mind decided, oh, this is the result of this type of intelligence, this type of study, this type of knowledge, he rejected it completely, and he could never bring his mind to accepting that at any cost. Although he was a very obedient and extremely sweet child and a person. So it is well known that after Chaitanya passed away, an ongoing antagonism arose between Shaktas and Vaishnavas in Bengal. Ramprasad and a few Shakti worshippers realized through sadhana that Kali and Krishna are the same and proclaimed that the antagonism was misguided. But the masses paid no heed to their words and became carried away by the current of conflict. So naturally, there are so many stories how somebody, the Vaishnava, for I said, if you want to reach, go over the samsara sagar, आपके तो कन्हैया के तो पकड़ना है, होता नहीं, वो तो मेरा माँ की तो नाव चलाने वाले है. He is the boatman of my mother. Naturally, he has to pilot the boat and take it like that. Like there are so many stories. So there was always a conflict going on because there are two strong traditions got established. Because Chaitanya's Mahaprabhu's influence was so strong. So Vaishnavism also took deep roots where people, even now it's you can see in Bengal in parts where it is very strong. The idea of singing kirtans and putting on tilak and dancing about and all that. Similarly, Ramprasad also set in motion a very strong tradition where, even now if you go to the place where his birthplace and all that, there is a very strong tradition of Shaktas, the Shakta cult prevailing in Bengal. So naturally there was a clash between these two. So people at the lower level would never understand, although great sadhakas really understood that there was no difference, it is only manifestations of the same aspect of reality in two different forms to please or to cater to the needs of different minds. So, this is evident from the jokes, songs and stories which ridicule the other deities. From his boyhood onward, the master was well acquainted with this situation. The master attained perfection after practicing the sadhanas prescribed by both the Shakta and Vaishnava scriptures and realized that each path was equally valid. It has thus become evident to him that the antagonism between the Shaktas and the Vaishnavas had been caused by vanity and egotism springing from a lack of spirituality. तो उनका जीवन का वही दृश्य आप देख लीजिए, समझ लीजिए. Here was a person who had neither studied the Vaishnava scriptures nor the Shakta was aware of the Shakta tradition. वो देख रहे सामने से दो तरीका जो दल की लोग झगड़ रहे इसके लिए कौन बड़ा है, कृष्णा है ना काली है. But he started So of course in his life also it was a wonder. Now, although he was brought up, he was born in a family of, in a sense, Vaishnavas, because his father, to Gaya mein jaake, he brought that Ramlala, and from that Raghuvir Shila se to unko shuru hua. So obviously he was, in one sense, he is from the Vaishnava tradition, or the tradition of that bhakti. But the moment he came to the temple, when he saw after the consecration the Divine Mother, simply his mind soared and nothing could distract him from that. Although he was, normally, bachpan se itni unki aadat thi, that to worship Ramchandra. He had done the puja very religiously after his Upanayana and all that. He was a very, very great worshipper of the Raghuvir Shila. So obviously, normally, people would have gone ahead in that, and to accept anything else at that time, when normal, according to normal rules or normal practices, when he had not had the highest vision and all that. But still, when he saw a different ambience in the Dakshineshwar temple of Kali, immediately he took to it and then he perfected it to the highest level. That was where he really had his first great spiritual experience, was under the feet of the Divine Mother, and not at the traditional, his own house at Kamarpukur. So, वो तो 16-17 साल में यहाँ आए थे. The next few years of intense sadhana brought him the realization about the Divine Mother, the Supreme Mother. And then slowly, as time progressed, Bhairavi Brahmani came, and he made him undergo all the practices according to the Vaishnava religion, according to the Tantras, everything he practiced. So without really, not by academic knowledge, by reading, by understanding through his mind or intellect, but actually by practicing, going through all the practices associated with those traditions, he realized for himself that the truth, ultimate truth according to both, were one and the same. आप ये वैष्णव की वही रास्ता पे जाइए, नहीं तो शाक्त की मार्ग में जाइए, अंत में एक ही जगह में आप पहुंच जाते हैं. This he realized through practicing to the greatest detail, in minutest detail, all the practices prescribed by these two traditions. So obviously here is a person who had, through experience, resolved these conflicts, and there was no conflict in his mind, and that is why he could tell people, to everybody, whether the Shaktas came or the Vaishnavas came, आप क्यों ऐसे सोच रहे? There is no need for you to fight, because both these would lead you only to the same ultimate goal or truth. There is no need for you to get into any difference of opinion or fight. So he says, the master's father worshipped Ramchandra. Providence had given him the stone emblem of Raghuvir, Ramchandra, and he installed it in his house. Although the master was born into a Vaishnava family, from his childhood onward, he had equal devotion for Shiva and Vishnu. Even now his neighbors point out a place where, see, iske bhi adhik ascharya, he was doing Raghuvir worship, but then when they selected him to act as a Shiva in a yatra, he simply went into a trance, and he was completely full of that Shiva bhava to such an extent, he was virtually transfixed and tears were flowing. Whole the yatra came to a standstill because he could not do any of the actions that were associated with this Shiva's part. So, how the mind was so pliable, and how it was so pure, and how he could immediately grasp whatever was really spiritual, whatever was the core spiritual idea, although brought up in a different tradition. See, he had not read anywhere to understand that Shiva and Rama were one and the same. They were different aspects of the same reality. What he had done was practicing the worship of Raghuvir according to family tradition. But suddenly, without even knowing anything about Shiva, when he was exposed to an atmosphere where he had to act like a Shiva, immediately his super-sensitive mind caught hold of this idea. It accepted it to such an extent that he virtually became, there was a manifestation of the Shiva bhava in his personality, and he was completely in that mood. So the master, we can had each member of his family initiated into both Vishnu and Shakta mantras. We think that the master did this in order to remove any antagonism from these minds. So, I don't know, he says that all the family members of that family were all initiated to both the Shakta and Vaishnava mantras. Probably Sri Ramakrishna saw that this is what is happening, how to get into this conflict, get them be devotees of both. It is now well known that in ancient times, the way virtuous King Ashoka was determined to spread Buddhism and education for the good of humankind. He established hospitals throughout India to treat the ailments of human beings and of animals. He has also arranged to collect medicines. He sent Buddhist monks to various parts of the country and abroad and to dispense those medicines and medicinal plants and also to preach the message of Buddha. So, those days obviously, it was very difficult. The communication for people to travel and this and that, facilities were much, much less. It was very difficult to travel. People have to travel long distances. So, because he was such a great, he had been completely converted to Buddhism. And at that time, there was a huge number of number of Buddhist monks who were practicing. So, when they spread out to different parts of the country, along with the teachings of Buddha, they also used to carry these medicines so that they could be of some service to people. It seems that from that time on, monks began to collect and carry medicines, but this custom became more prevalent in the Tantric age. In the era that followed, the authors of Smriti scriptures noticed that monk spirituality was declining because of its custom, and they raised a strong objection to it. But even now, that custom has not been uprooted in conservative India. So I don't know. Abhibi, some of the monks also give homeopathy medicines. So giving medicines was a practice. So slowly, that became, instead of it was an addendum, add-on to the basic teachings of Buddha. Along with that, wherever there was necessity. But then, slowly, the medicine part overtook the other part, and sadhus are busy only dispensing medicines. So there was a lot of fight and dispute about it. It is evident even that while the master was living in Dakshineswar and travelling to holy places, he noticed a lack of spirituality among the sadhus. They had gained a reputation by dispensing medicines and had fallen from their ideas forever, entrapped by enjoyment. So दवाई देते थे, अच्छे दवाई. मेरे को कभी कभी कोई पूछते हैं, महाराज क्या आप कुछ दवाई दे सकते हैं क्या? आप क्या कुंडली देख सकते हैं? So two things, if you see, can predict and give medicine, that's what they think is a great sadhu. ऐसा विश्व वैराग ये सब बातें करना तो खत्म. प्रणामी जो देने चाहते वो भी ले जाते वापस, नहीं देंगे. So this was the condition. So he saw that then that the sadhus had become completely, they have come away from their traditions and they were busy doing this. The master told us many times, that is why, never believe sadhus who give medicines, who exorcise evil spirits by uttering charms and incantations, who receive money, who adorn themselves excessively with ashes and religious marks, or who wear wooden sandals or advertise their austerity, and thus give others the impression that they are great sadhus. So this is another great contribution of Sri Ramakrishna. Of course, probably we are also taking it slowly to the other extreme. He was very clear that आप बाहर दिखाना बिल्कुल बंद करो. So that is why you see outside all sadhus usually they put on vibhuti. In all Uttarakhand, if you see, early all sadhus. In the mission, if you put on, other sadhus will simply take your life out. Even if you want it to, अरे क्या तुम कर रहे हो? So it's very difficult for us. Even if I had tradition from my boyhood to put on vibhuti, I had to give it up because sadhus starting, अरे क्या तुम शुरू किया यहाँ? So the idea here is to completely keep away from all this external. It is normal. See, if you have to wear chappals, wear normal chappals. To get a wooden sandal is much more difficult. So he says, those who are, see, the idea was, he was not against sadhus practicing austerity. That will also come later. He never condemned that. You could clearly see. But normally when he saw this degeneration, sadhus were coming down from their ideas. Instead of practicing it, they are using all that to attract people and to gather money and to enjoy. He said that never believe a sadhu who does all that. वो बाहर देखना बिल्कुल, he always say that you put on too much of gamta, you don't. All that also he has said somewhere else. So all your spiritual qualities etc. should manifest as inner virtues rather than being exhibited externally like that. ना आप कोई सचमुच सात्विक आध्यात्मिक हो तो उसके साथ आप 2-4 दिन रहें, 2-4 मिनट बातें करें उसके सानिध्य में, तो आपके पता चलेगा. It's easy for you to find out if you are also of that nature. Otherwise, people get deluded, that's why, there's a huge business that's also going on in the name of all that everywhere. Let no one conclude from the above statement that the master, after observing hypocritical and fallen monks, would consider abolishing the monastic orders as some Westerners advocate. So, he was not for that. He said, nahi, ye sab to rahega, but ye sab bacha ke aap sach raho. You be pure, you be holy, you be wonderful. But don't go into this. So, even in Dakshineshwar, when Hatha Yogi aake bahut kuch dikhate the. And one or two of the disciples started going. Sri Ramakrishna became extremely worried. वहाँ मत जाओ, ये सब जरूरत नहीं है. Don't try to do all these practices which are useless. आप क्या वही जबरदस्ती प्राणायाम से इससे आपकी क्या बंद करना चाहते हैं? आपकी मन की एकाग्रता वैसे ही आपकी भक्ति से आएगा. You don't have to do it forcefully by these practices. What is more important is your deep devotion to God. That is what will bring about. आपकी कुंभक भक्ति से होगा. The real stopping of that breath will happen if you are so deeply devoted that the mind would so concentrate on God and a superior reality, it would even stop breathing that way. That is how it should be achieved, and not by closing your nose and then trying to hold on to your breath forcefully. Regarding this, the master told us from time to time, an ordinary monk in religious garb who lives on alms must be regarded as greater than a good householder. If that monk maintains a good character and spends his life depending only on alms, even if he does not practice yoga or perform austerities, he has proceeded further on the path of renunciation than as an ordinary householder. This statement illustrates the master's conviction that renouncing everything for God is the standard by which person's character and conduct are to be judged. So, सचमुच वो चाहते थे त्याग की क्या, कितने त्यागी है व्यक्ति. So that was the real measure. आप बाहर इतनी भी देखाओ, आपके अंदर की स्थिति क्या है. So if really the inner life is important, if you are living on alms, if you are really given up something for the sake of God, he says that person is far superior, holy. So don't worry about other things, but same time, he warned people against the exhibition of external signs and insignia, etc., advertising one is a sadhu. He was against that, but what he really said was, the inner state of mind, how much you are established in the idea of Tyaga, how much you are ready to call on God, how much you are ready to spend your life in that pursuit, that is what is important. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Lilaprasanga.